All right. Well, I'm going to check around and make sure that we're actually live. The stream says that we're live. So while we wait on people to arrive and get the notification, I'll go ahead and check those out. And so I'm going to pop over to, I guess I'll head over to Facebook first. It looks like we have one person on. I see us. We're actually live on Facebook, so that's a plus. Go check on LinkedIn. Make sure it's also a reality on LinkedIn. Hey, everybody, whoever's joining now, we are just checking to make sure all the technical stuff is right, that we're actually streaming. That would be a plus. We don't want to not stream. It's not what we're going for here. All right, awesome. Looks like people are coming in. So feel free to drop your comments in. A lot of times it'll just say, hey, it's a LinkedIn user, it's a YouTube user, it's a Facebook user. You should see instructions on how to open up who you are so that we can see exactly who you are in the stream. And I appreciate the confirmation, Jonathan Will. We are actually live. It's a good thing. So we're going to let people filter in here for the first couple of minutes. Feel free to hang out in the chat. I'm sure, especially you guys on LinkedIn, feel free to drop your LinkedIn links and do a little networking, and feel free to share where you're joining from. I always think it's awesome to see, especially people are joining from a lot of different countries. But yeah, we'll make a little small talk and then we'll jump in. So thanks for joining us, Mark. For those of you who don't know, Mark is the founder of AI Force Training, which is a Salesforce specialized GPT engine and training platform. And I've been through it. I know a lot of people who have been through this training. It has not been publicly available up until today. So today is a huge day for Mark and the AI Force team and finally making this publicly available. I know I've been looking forward to it. I know a ton of people on LinkedIn have been looking forward to it. So yeah, with that, welcome to the live, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Such a great show to be on here. I'm the founder of AI Force and AI Force Training. Like you mentioned, we are first a training program, and second, an actual Salesforce GPT engine. And this has been in the making for quite some time. So today is such a big deal for me and the team. It's been a while. So we have been in closed beta for a while, like you mentioned. So some of you might have seen some GPT specialist certifications pop up. We've been honing in on trying to make the absolute best possible training for everyone. And so I think we've done it, and we're ready to open up to a much wider audience, and that starts today. So I know I've seen all the complaints about, oh, I signed up like 2 months ago, and I just haven't gotten anything else. It's like, I know. So sorry. We've been just feverishly working behind the scenes to try to just make the best possible training that we could offer. And I think we've done it. So I'm super excited for today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So not to put any additional pressure on you. I'll say first, before I go through these comments, I love watching the comments. If you see me distracted, it's not that I don't love what you're saying. I also enjoy the community. But I mean, I went through the training personally, and I was one of those people who I was at a meetup here in the Woodlands, which is north of Houston. And I was talking to a developer, and he was like, I use GPT every day. And I love it. It makes me more efficient. It makes me more productive. And I was kind of like, really? Like, I've used it some, and I haven't necessarily like been able to like really get it to do amazing things like I'm hearing people talk about. And so he walked me through it a little bit. And, he was actually one of the people who I'd been working with you on the closed beta, but then also he was like, I've been using some of the tips from AI Force, and it's good stuff. And I was like, okay, well, that's awesome. So that really intrigued me. And that's when we got the Talent Stacker team involved in actually going through the AI Force training. And I can tell you, coming out of it, it's a different world. I mean, I'm not going to say it's perfect, and you know that too, but I will say that you can do a lot with GPT as it stands today for Salesforce solutioning. And we know it's only going to get better. And I'll say too, like, I finished your training and I felt so good about myself because I was like, I did it, I finished. And then I saw you dropped all the trigger content, and I was like, I have so much further to go. And then I saw the sort of like the timeline for the summer, and it looks like a ton of awesome stuff is coming. So I'm excited about that. With all that though, I mean, check this out, like people joining us from all over the US. Obviously we got, California, Texas, I see Indiana in here. Got people joining from Canada, South Africa, Croatia,
Incredible.
the UK, Spain, like then of course the majestic Huntsville, Alabama. I have a lot of family in Alabama, so I'm going to pick on you. And Mexico down here. I mean, all over the place. I'm sorry I can't go through all of them, but it's insane. Like this is literally a global live event, and it's so cool to see that. So thank you everybody for coming out. I know for some people in the U.S., time zone is probably pretty cool for this, and then for some of you other guys, I know that time zone is not ideal, and we appreciate you, getting up crazy early or staying up crazy late to hang out with us. I'm not going to talk your ear off about where people are from. We are actually here to give you guys information. And I had a few people from the my community, the Salesforce for Everyone community, our community, reach out to me in the last couple of weeks. Now that we've been talking about GPT and AI Force training a lot more, because it's going to be a huge deal in 2023, and they've been reaching out and they're going, "Yeah, is this really?" that big of a deal? Is this something I should be focused on? Should I go get my Sales Cloud certification, or should I be looking at, upskilling in GPT training? And to me, 2023 is going to be the year of GPT. I think it's going to make every other Salesforce release look kind of like, yeah, that's cool, but the GPT stuff, right? And we know Salesforce is pushing this with Einstein GPT. And there's just going to be so much more information coming out just in the Salesforce ecosystem, not even counting all the other industries and arenas where this technology is going to be advancing. So to me, it's a no-brainer. This is absolutely something I don't personally want to fall behind on. And I know that for me, my responsibility, and this is where I was getting at with people reaching out to me, the way I look at it is my responsibility as a sort of opting to be a voice in this community is that I feel like it's my obligation to inform the community when something meaningful has arrived. And we saw the same thing with when the associate certification exam came out. There were a lot of questions. There was a lot of, is this meaningful? Do employers care? Is it hard? Is it easy? Does it cover the same topic? Should I get this first or the admin exam first? And that was a really meaningful topic at the moment. And we felt obligated to make sure that we studied and we got educated, and then we informed the community on whether or not they should take that seriously. And this is another one of those examples recently where it's like, hey, back in November, December, ChatGPT getting released, publicly available, a lot of media around it. And it's like, is it hype or is it real? And so we went in first and, we did the AI Force training and we used ChatGPT. And we started saying, can you really viably use this as a solution? And, I think what we found is that obviously you're sitting here on a live, it's Salesforce for Everyone. We don't really do live events all that much. This was worthy of a live for us. So with all that, I'm going to go through some of these comments and I'll be prepared for you, Mark, but I want you to lead this thing. You're the expert. And Mark truly is the expert. Like, he'll give you some of his background, but I can attest to the fact that he is definitely a hybrid of Salesforce and artificial intelligence, including GPT technology. But I'm not going to talk your ear off. I've already done that for like 10 minutes. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark, let him do his thing, and I'm going to hang out in the comments and see what you guys are up to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you touched on so many things and I lost my ability to keep tabs of everything that I wanted to touch on based on what you said, but I'll do my best. Yeah, definitely engage with the comments, and I want to try to boil up some really heavy hitting questions if we can as we go along. Also, what I'm going to do on the call today is just try to add as much value as possible, because that one of the things that you mentioned is where our mission and your vision align, which is we want to accelerate the adoption of GPT in the Salesforce ecosystem. And that's because we have identified the significant value that GPT is going to bring to Salesforce and then to many other communities. But I think Salesforce is such an important and strong community that I think we deserve it. There's a new technology on the scene. We're tech people. We deserve to grab the newest tech and run with it and be the first to the scene to utilize it. And so that's the goal. Is I just want to push out the information and make sure everybody hears the message and understands that GPT was not a fad. It's not going to go away. I saw in the comments someone mentioned well, what is Einstein GPT? How does that differ from Chat GPT or other GPTs? And I'll talk about that in just a second. It's not going away. The evolution of AI is such that the GPT model, which is like a subset of artificial intelligence, so artificial intelligence is a big umbrella, and generative pre-trained transformers, that's GPT, is a subset of that. So, but the GPT model is such that it can be rolled out across so many ecosystems and affect so many different areas of work. And just speaking specifically within Salesforce, I mean, Salesforce understands this. They announced Einstein GPT, and they are absolutely working feverishly to get that rolled out as quick as possible. They had some great demo videos, but I know they've got a lot of work behind the scenes to get it done. We had to go through that pain as well. We're still going through that growing pain. And so, I think that obviously validates that GPT is here. It's here to stay. It's not a fad. And then the question remains, okay, well, if it's here to stay, what do we do with it? And it's not here to replace you. You have to learn the tool. It's just like all the other tools that have showed up in the past. When the tool shows up, note it, and we have to learn how to utilize it. And those who utilize the tool will be the ones that are poised to capture the value related to the use of that tool. So how does let's quick question that I saw earlier. How does Einstein GPT differ? Well, Einstein GPT is going to be integrated into the CRM itself. Of course, Salesforce is going to utilize it to Salesforce is going to utilize it to speed up and improve the processes across the board. So that's going to be it's like an in-house software. We've got AI Forces Engine, which is third party to Salesforce. So what we're doing and what we've trained on is your ability to go to it, much like you go to Chat GPT, and utilize it for whatever your needs may be. So the topics are expanded significantly. So Salesforce is going to narrow Einstein GPT down to very specific tracks that work really well inside of the Salesforce CRM itself. AI Force and Chat GPT, these are tools that are external, that are more broad. So Chat GPT is extremely broad. I mean, it's tuned, and the model is such that you can use it for all kinds of industry. AI Force Engine is specific just to Salesforce, and we've got a lot of room to improve. But we already I'll have a screen share a little bit later today with our different mode selectors that we have available for you today. And I'll go through some demo on maybe AI Force, but most importantly, Chat GPT, just because Chat GPT is already free. It's already there. Everybody can have access to it. So again, to add value on this call, on this live, I want to just share with you things that you can do with Chat GPT today. And it's almost going to be like a sort of a mini training for this live. So I just missed the chat. It just dropped down. So if I miss it, drop it back up and I'll answer that one that was on the screen, unless that was the one I was talking about.
Yep, it was the one you were talking about.
Okay, cool, sweet. Yeah. So a little bit more about me. I studied the papers presented by a Hungarian professor, Dr. Karl Faher, and I studied those for quite some time. Those papers were the precursor to the GPT that we have today, that Chat GPT uses over at OpenAI. And the technology has been building and building and building. And this is also how I know that GPT is the future of work. Is that it's improved upon itself over time for several years, and it didn't just plateau and stop, and now we have Chat GPT or AI Force or Einstein GPT, and that's it. The iterations of improvement are going to continue and accelerate even. This I It's tough. I don't want to get too in depth on the call, but 5 years from now is going to be insane. I mean, like the advent of the internet, it is going to change how we do work, period. Today, if you've got a question, you might jump on your favorite search engine and try to understand the topic. You've got to go through several links, connect the dots, put information together, and very soon GPT will serve that function. You will go to GPT, and that's not 5 years off, that's very soon. You will go to GPT and you will solution for your problems with GPT. You try it today. And this is another thing I'm going to encourage everybody on the call. If you haven't tried GPT, specifically Chat GPT, go to Chat GPT and just start thinking of things that you can ask it. Try to get a feel for how it works. If you are already using it, I challenge you today. I'm going to show you some examples. I challenge you to expand on what you already use it for, and just keep iterating and keep practicing using GPT, because it's going to be so important. So for Salesforce specifically, and the examples I show you today, take note, because this is just the tip of the iceberg on what we'll be using GPT for Salesforce. And also GPT's changing so much over time. That's why for our course specifically for GPT specialist training, it's a 12-month access, because we can't stay static, because the model's improving so quickly. New tools are coming out seemingly every week, brand new tools that are built with GPT that can be used specifically for Salesforce professionals. And these are the tools that we'll be adding to the program as time goes on. So I just wanted to mention that what you see with Chat GPT today, or AI Forces Engine, or when Einstein GPT comes out, that is not the end. I mean, 5 years from now, this will look totally insane. And I assume we're saving this video, so bookmark this video and check back 5 years from now. You will see. I promise you, it's a big deal. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to chime in if it's cool with you.
Yeah.
We have so many comments, and I appreciate everyone who's live right now across all 3 platforms. We have just over 300 people hanging out, so it's exciting to talk to you guys. And I've got a few questions that came in, and I think a few are worth definitely going ahead and mentioning now. And the cool thing is, this is the Q&A. Like, we can do whatever we want with this live. Like, everything we do at Salesforce for Everyone is for the community. It's not about specifically AI Force, even though we appreciate you being here. It's not about specifically, Salesforce or anything specific. It's about the questions you guys have and what you want to hear about and what you want to learn about. So we are definitely going to take breaks to answer questions. So keep them rolling in, and I'm keeping an eye on them. I've got one question here. It's pretty lengthy, but I'll sort of sum it for you. They said, what, if anything, is Salesforce doing, or maybe should be thinking about doing, to address privacy concerns with GPT and the sort of data being shared, right? Because I think for me, it's funny, because I've heard people talk about this, and then part of me says, well, of course, you should never share like customer data inside of GPT. But we go a little bit further now, right? This is a little bit different. And we go, well, what if you're having it decode a piece of code? Like for me, I never got deep into development. And one of the beauties of this is that, say there's this, 200 lines of code and a trigger. And yeah, I could sort of poke through it and try to figure out what it does. But now I can just copy paste it and say, what does this do? And tell me in bullet points, what does this do? And it'll tell me in like 10 bullet points exactly what that trigger does. Now that's really effective. But on the other hand, I just copy pasted code that could potentially be the intellectual property of a client or a company into a tool that could potentially be storing that information. And of course, we know it stores it for machine learning and actually getting better over time for that purpose. But it is an interesting situation we're up against. So one side of me is concerned. The other side of me says, go peruse Reddit and the Salesforce community groups and Discords and Slack channels and look at all the code sets people are copy pasting into those already. So I go both ways on it. But yeah, I would love to hear your opinion.
It's a really challenging topic. And I think over time, over several months, this will be fleshed out. I'll tell you, the first things that come to mind for me is, what's Salesforce going to do? How's Einstein GPT going to work? Well, one of 2 things: they're going to in-house their particular model. So they'll get the model from a company like OpenAI, which I saw that they partnered with, and then they'll run that in-house on their own servers, so that the information is only kept local. And then Salesforce can then run on their own privacy policies for managing that data. And so we already deal with Salesforce. We already deal with those privacy policies. And that's one great approach that I think will make a lot of sense. The other one is with companies like AI Force. So we use a specific call with OpenAI. So we use OpenAI's model as well. But if you go and use ChatGPT, so that data that goes into ChatGPT is trainable data for OpenAI, and you're subscribing to their privacy policies when you utilize that. And that data does go into the next model, the next iteration of models. And so when you're using a free source like that, like ChatGPT, I think it's critical, like that's where we train. It's critical to not inject intellectual property or anything, private information, client information, anything that would be covered under any typical NDA does not belong in Chat GPT.
Mhm.
Now on the AI Force side, and on the AI Force side, so the information again does go to OpenAI, but we've got a different policy where that gets stored for 30 days on OpenAI servers and then it's killed. So it gets deleted. So that's one step closer to a much more secure environment. We don't do any logging and grabbing data. So, but if you go to Salesforce, like you can expect, you'll be able to seamlessly integrate and use Einstein GPT without concern. And we saw the videos, right? They're going to be, reading data on like customer records and presenting you with information already. So it's all going to be integrated there. So different tools for different use cases. And then just in general, I think in the beginning, it's very much going to be a use discretion as you're working. I mean, we're all professionals, right? It's all of our responsibility. We all come across uh, sensitive data every day, and the choices that we make in handling that data lies on us. And so we just, it's something we train. And again, it's something you have to be cognizant of. But I hope that information about how data is handled by the different entities is helpful for everyone thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you likely have something you would like to present. Do you want me to ask some questions, or you want to jump into presenting?
Let's go with, do you have any more, like one more heavy hitting questions here, and
Yeah,
I'll
I've
present.
got I've got a good one that I think leads for me, and you know me. I think everybody knows me at this point. I just can't stop talking, so I'll I'll mention the question. I would like to share my thoughts if that's cool with you, and then you can take off with it. So we've got this question here. So Malik Robinson says, "Will it write our test classes?" And I think this gets into a bigger topic, right? Like, will it write our test classes? We could finish that sentence with anything. Will it what, right? And for me going through the training, will it write your test classes? Yeah. Is it going to write them 100% accurate the first time? Probably not. Like, likely not. Is it going to get you like 70, 80% there, which is like hours of time saving? Yeah, it absolutely can if you know how to prompt it and use it properly, right? And that's a lot of what AI Force is about. And I wanted to mention that first of all. And somebody said, yeah, but you need to check it, right? Like somebody else in the comments was like, but never trust it 100%. And that's true. And I think the unique thing about test classes specifically is that you put it in and it doesn't pass coverage. And, you know, with everything, and I know you're going to mention this because we've gone through your training, is that you are the expert. You are still the expert when it comes to GPT. You are not going to just say, "Hey, do my job for me," and then it does your job for you. That's not how this is going to work, and you don't want it to work that way. That's scary if it works that well. Like right now, you are still the one in charge of GPT. GPT is not the one doing your job for you. It's assisting you. And Mark said this all the time in the training. It's an AI assistant. And that's the goal, is like you want an assistant. So if you had just hired a new junior developer, a junior administrator to work with you, and you said, "Hey, go write a test class," do you expect it to be 100% correct the first time they bring it back? Likely not. You're probably going to have to learn how to talk to them and prompt them and give them feedback and training. Now, the cool thing is they probably would have taken a week to bring it back to you, where GPT is going to take 30 seconds to bring it back to you. So at that point, we can start to see the massive enhancements here. And this is the thing I had to get over early in my training process, was I expected GPT to be perfect. And I don't know why that was my expectation. I just thought, hey, you're a tool and I'll use you and you're perfect. And so it's like, write a test class for this trigger. And it was wrong. And I was so disappointed. And I was like, this doesn't work. But our expectation can't be for this technology to be absolutely perfect, considering everything that it does. Treat it like an assistant, think of it like an assistant, get better at talking to it and communicating with it. And suddenly your assistant becomes really, really good. And you get good at understanding what it can and can't do. And that's where the value comes in. When you really have worked with it, you have experience with it, and you're trained on how to use it well, that's when you can really take advantage of it. So, I'll stop talking. People are here to hear from you. Will it write our test classes?
I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger there because I have a really great answer, and I think
All
you're
right.
going to be super excited. Spoiler alert. Um, yes, GPT is your assistant. Yes, it gets it wrong. It gets it so wrong, and it's so depressing. Uh, that's how everyone starts.
Go
And then you
on.
go through this lull of like, wow, this was supposed to be so amazing. I saw some cool stuff and I got hyped. This thing is awful. And then you start to learn, like, okay, well, I guess you can like tweak what you say and the response can change. Wait a minute. I just changed something in my request and the response was way closer to the right answer. And then you start to realize, okay, I'm the expert. I got to figure out how to talk to this thing to get the right answers, or at least an answer that's the closest to it. Because in the case of writing a test class, um, if you can get 80% there, wouldn't you prefer 80% instead of zero? Like, yes. I'll tell you this. Yes, it can write test classes. All you have to do is take your code. Well, I'm going to make it sound super easy. Go try it out. You will be incredibly amazed. Take your test class to ChatGPT. Of course, make sure it's something that you can put in first, per our earlier conversation, and then ask it to provide you a test class for that class. Ask it for specific coverage, and I want you to take that result and copy it to your org and run it, and you will get errors, guaranteed. It's your responsibility as a professional to find those 2 to 3 errors, tweak the code yourself, or go back over to ChatGPT. We call them modifiers. Request some updates to the test class, maybe even share what the error was. This is all part of the training, and you can get, if not 100% copy and pastable executable test classes, really close to it. And then I'll say that if you get errors and you don't know what to do, well, that's okay too, because it just means that there's an area where you don't have an understanding, and you're going to go out and reference the developer help articles and tackle it. And guess what? By the end of that process, not only will you have gotten 80% there with GPT, you will also gained some knowledge on a specific area where you didn't have it before.
Mhm.
And that process is the value of
Yeah.
GPT.
Yeah. I want to point that that is an amazing point. It's an amazing point that the really amazing thing about GPT is that you learn as you go because you can ask it to tell you why, right? Like that's beautiful. That is something Google cannot do. Cannot do. So if you go on Google and you're like, hey, I need a validation rule that does this, right? Let's just keep it simple because we have a large audience here that a test class may not be the best use case for a large audience, right? But a validation rule, a formula filled. I've got this formula filled. It's got an issue, right? And you can go in and say, hey, can you write this for me? And you could Google that. And you'd get some similar results. And then you'd have to look at those similar results and then adjust them to apply to your situation. At the end of the day, you may not understand what you just did. You copy pasted and you're just fingers crossed praying that nobody changes the requirement because you don't know what to do next because you don't even know why it works the way it works today. And the beautiful thing about GPT is that it can produce something as simple as a validation rule for you. And if you're a beginner in the space and you go, I don't know what that, particular, formula was. I don't really get what that is. I didn't even know you could say that, but it works. And you can say, tell me what line 2 is about. Can you tell me what this function does? And because it's picking up on the actual the chat that you're having, the actual thread that is going on, it knows what you're referencing. You could just say, what is this function? And it'll tell you what that function is in reference to the formula it just produced for you. So you can learn and go and train as you build amazing solutions all at the same time. That is something unprecedented. And I think if you're like me and you came into this thinking GPT technology should be perfect, and if it's short of perfect, then forget about it, it's broken. That's the wrong way to come into it. And that's the way I came into it. This is your assistant. It's absolutely an incredible assistant. This thing can do things, everything from formula fields and validation rules and test classes and telling you what a trigger does and writing it out in bullet points for you in seconds. What kind of assistant can you hire to do that? And you don't even have to hire anyone. We're talking like what GPT's like less than $50 a month. Like, and the price will probably go up. But if you could pay an assistant less than even $100 a month, that's huge for being able to level up your career. So I think you have to adopt this technology. It only gets better over time. Like, what technology came out and just got worse and worse and worse as time went on? Like, basically nothing. I'm sure there's some arguments that we could all laugh about, but there was something else. Oh, something I wanted to bring up specifically about AI Force training is that I know there are a lot of questions in the comments about the AI Force engine compared to Chat GPT. And while I think that's an important conversation, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that AI Force engine is part of this. And it's part of what AI Force offers, the actual GPT engine they utilize for Salesforce. But to me, the bigger value, at least today, like when we did the training in March, was the training itself. And I've seen a few comments that are like, yeah, just give me a prompt that I can then go adjust. But what I've learned through, facilitating Talent Stacker as a company is that people come in thinking they know what they need to be successful. And it's important to rely on the expert to help guide you into what you need to be successful. And that's why I changed my entire perspective on AI needing to be perfect. And so I changed my perspective because I listened to the guidance because I know I'm not the expert, right? Like, raise your hand in the audience right now if you have 10 years of artificial intelligence background. Very likely you don't. We all have Salesforce backgrounds, and a lot of us have completely unrelated backgrounds. And I knew, even though I have 12 years of Salesforce consulting behind me, I'm not an artificial intelligence and GPT technology expert. So I'm going to lean on the person who is. And through that, what I can say is the training, what it taught me is I don't want to be taught. I don't want to be given a prompt, is what I should say. I don't want somebody to hand me a list of 20 prompts and say, use this to write a validation rule. Here's a good prompt. I want to learn how to write a prompt. I want to learn why a good prompt is a good prompt so I can innovate on that and scaffold it. And I might even be able to go back to Mark a year from now and say, hey, you have in your lessons about learning to write prompts and how we can get better results out of this technology. I actually had a thought, what if we did this? And now you can grow and we can make each other better and we can teach and we can learn at the same time. And that's what makes community amazing. And if you just want somebody to hand you a list of prompts and you can go switch out a few keywords, that impact is not going to take place. So I can go on a tangent about so much of this stuff, but it is so important. To me, the training was 5 times more valuable on how to prompt properly, how to build prompts myself, how to think about the way that I talk, the limitations of the way GPT can be used, how to use it specifically for validations, formulas, triggers, SOQL, and actually learning as I go. Like, I had to learn how to do SOQL while I was learning how to use GPT for SOQL all at the same time. So you'll notice I haven't mentioned using the AI Force engine, even though I used it. The important thing for me was learning to be a better GPT professional, just like many of us have to learn to be better Salesforce professionals. And a lot of it has to do with getting inside of Salesforce, but a lot of it has to do with understanding how Salesforce functions as a platform, how the database is structured, how all of these things connect together, the order of operations, how the security model even functions. The foundational knowledge is so important to scaffolding that knowledge and getting better at being a Salesforce professional. Same thing with GPT. The foundational knowledge and understanding of how GPT works and how to utilize it and how it thinks is just as important as having fun with the AI Force engine. And so to me, the engine is cool. It's incredible. And I know it's going to be even more incredible as time goes on. But the training, I would say, should be the number one focus for people looking at this today. So I hope that helps. And I'm going to give it back to you, Mark.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Yeah, the training, that's where it's at. That's where your value as a professional, you want to take away from the training the ability to use GPT, no matter what GPT looks like 12 months from now, 2 years from now. You need to understand the technology, understand how to apply it, understand the prompting, understand how it's going to reply, understand how to use the different tools inside of the GPT tool to sort of massage the information to get to the result you're looking for. That's it. I've got a business requirement I'm looking to solve. I need to select the right tool. Okay, it's GPT. All right, how do I get it to give me what I need to solve the business requirement? The tricks are fun. I'm going to show you a joke in just a minute. Those are fun, but it's and this is what we're striving for. Is GPT is a business solutioning tool, and that's okay. That's where the focus is. We sort of like had to white knuckle ourselves, just holding our fists so tight to not create like prompt after prompt after prompt. Like just yesterday, for the first time, I posted, "Hey, here's a prompt you can use," because I realized that there is value there. There's some value there, and people want to see that. People need that, and so I'm trying to release that just a little bit and like not hold back so much, just to like show people the power of GPT in general. But at the end of the day, yeah, you can get a list of 20 prompts, but then you're stuck with those 20 prompts and you've got no capability to solve a business requirement that comes out of left field. And the business requirements for solutioning is what we're trying to do. So that's what the training is all about. It's getting you familiar with and comfortable with and exercised on, I've got a requirement. How do I solution for that? Cool. What are my challenges? That makes sense. Okay. I got to the final result. Hooray. This is amazing. Look how much time I saved. And if I didn't save time, look how much additional education I was able to get based off solutioning for this brand new requirement that I've never had to deal with before. That's the whole point of the training. There was another thing you said that I thought was so critical in there, and it eludes me. So we'll carry on. All right. I'd love to share and just keep an eye on the comments if anything pops up that's super critical. I know there's just so much. And you guys, if you're a certified GPT and you're on the call, or you know a lot about GPT, please go in and just answer some of these comments too. There's no way I'm going to get to all of them, obviously. But what's so important is that we do just share in the community as much as we can about GPT, just to educate everyone, level everyone's skill up, and just prepare everyone for this massive wave of technology that's rolling through. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks for that. So if you're a contributor in the comments, thank you for doing that. And I certainly appreciate it. All right. So I've got a screen share going. Sweet. Okay. So just kind of like a hybrid thing here, a little bit of a mini course / capability study / showing you kind of what we do with our training in general, the style of it. But again, we're teaching Salesforce professionals to leverage the power of GPT. That's our ultimate goal here. And as I go through this and I show you example after example, you'll also see sort of the structure and layout of our course. We've got videos and text and just examples and copy paste so that you can take the prompt and go use it and try out and do different things with it. And then we also go through and talk about the prompting and why it's effective and what you can do to make things more effective. And another thing, okay, I'll try not to get ahead of myself. Okay, so just a joke to kick us off here. If I did this right, so this is always fun. So I'm going to start out with a couple of easy things, little simple things, just to show you capability in general, in case you haven't been just going and sending requests off to GPT. And then I'll go and scale up and we'll go a little bit harder and a little bit harder. And I'll just try to give you a little bit of the breadth of areas of focus that GPT can help with. And I wish I had done a test class. I don't have that prepared. I might just squeeze that in the end, just to show you. Okay. So here I'm a Salesforce admin, let's say, asking for a raise. Give me a joke. I could tell my manager to introduce the idea of the raise, keep it short, maybe a one-liner. And they like ChatGPT, so include that somehow. And so I asked ChatGPT for advice on how to ask for a raise. And it said the best way is to just add a few zeros to the salary field. And I thought that was pretty clever. Okay, carry on. All right. This is something I posted yesterday on LinkedIn. I thought this was a super critical prompt or request that you can do with ChatGPT. And again, as far as adjusting the prompt for your specific needs, that's something that we can go into in the course or in a later call if we want to do that. But basically what we've done is we've taken ChatGPT in this case, and we're converting it into an interview coach for you. So say you've got your first certification and you're going out and you're applying for jobs and you've got a little bit of experience, but you just don't feel comfortable in interviews. And so this will never replace a human. But with a prompt like this, you can certainly go to GPT and now check out my post if you didn't read it or if you want more detail. So I won't go into too much detail, but Basically, now I have an interview coach. I'm going to voice to text in the messaging field so that I can talk as I'm interviewing. And then I'm just going to read the responses from GPT. And GPT here with that particular prompt is offering some tips and tricks as we go through and do interview questions. And it just gives you practice as an individual interviewing. And then reading through the tips and tricks, you can kind of start to adjust your mindset as you go. And I think this is just a great example of just in general, the capability that GPT has to train you as a person, as an individual who's looking to skill up. I can go through this, and if I spend 10 minutes doing question and answer interview style with GPT's, in this case, GPT's expert interview coach, I am certainly going to start rewiring my brain, which is, this is like a topic for neural maps and AI space, rewiring the brain for specific answers, for specific flow of conversations in my interview. And this is 24/7. This is your assistant, always ready to help you as an interview coach. I just think that's really cool. And so I really hope a lot of people will try that out and find some really great value and feel like they have just more confidence going into an interview and being able to talk about their experience and what they have done over their career. So jumping to another example here, and I'll try to follow my course a little bit to talk about some other things. So in between examples, I'll just say that GPT is your assistant. You are the professional. There are different engagement styles when you work with GPT. We teach this in the training, that you can approach again, we've got business requirements flowing in. You can approach it as someone with very little experience and go to GPT and just try to start learning. The tool is a little bit less valuable that way because you do need to be able to audit the responses to know whether or not you're getting good information. Another way that you can engage with GPT is what we call a guide. And this is like you've got a lot of knowledge on the topic, but maybe you're not like a super pro expert. This isn't the thing that you focus on all the time. So you take it to GPT and you can send requests and get information back. And you can kind of decipher the information you're getting and decide whether what you have is good enough or if you need to modify it in some way to get a better solution. And then another style that we talk about is the pro. And this is when you get the business requirement and you already know what to do. You've already written a trigger for maybe even this particular solution before. You maybe already know sort of the steps in the code that you would define or lay out for this particular trigger. But then you go to GPT because you know GPT can within 10 seconds deliver code that would take you, I don't know, 20 minutes to write. Let's just say if you're an expert, right? If you're just flowing and you know what to do. And GPT is going to limit the mistakes in syntax and limit mistakes or catch something that you may not have thought of, or there's just so much value there. It's hard to even get through it all. But so 3 different engagement styles is what we teach about. So it's your assistant. You're going to engage it in different ways. And based on your engagement style, you will get different results. And that's important to understand. Again, just having a prompt to copy and paste, you don't get that. You have no clue. But knowing how you're engaging with GPT is critical in your success for using the tool. I'll talk about advanced autocomplete. GPT is looking to, it's not trained on question and answer yet. It's not trained on question and answer. So it's not pulling from a bank of questions and giving you the answer that makes sense for that question. It is advanced autocomplete. It's like when you go to your search engine and you're typing in and you start with a few words and it tries to autocomplete and suggests what's the best case, the best possible specific to you search that you might be looking for. Well, it's like that on just like such a much larger scale, which is insane to think that we can get the things that we get out of GPT if it's just an advanced autocomplete. But it is. That's all it is. And that's key to understanding why information is just wrong, why you can just get wrong information. And it makes it important for you just to be on heightened alert and be aware and be, scanning through the responses and just really make sure that you've got a good response before you carry that forward to solution. A lot of people have responded to me via email and said, like, one of the key concerns is that the information is wrong and that maybe juniors don't know. And so they would just take what was given to them and run with it and just waste a bunch of time or even cause issues within the org. That's such a valid concern. And that's why it is so important to understand the underlying advanced autocomplete, this is not your expert teacher educator. Um, you have a certain set of knowledge, and it's going to take you up one level from there. And when you level up to that level of knowledge, GPT will take you one level up from there. It will always take you one step farther, but you personally have to level up before GPT is going to take you to the next level. You can't go from 0 to 10. Okay, that was a lot of talking. So let's just move right into the next example. Uh, in this example, we're just say we've got we're implementing a solution, and in this solution that we're implementing, we have to assign record types, and we're in the settings screen, and there's the checkbox where let's see, we're in the profile screen, so we're editing profile settings, and we have the object settings up, and we see the assigned record types checkbox, and we're like, I can't remember what that does. So boom, it's a GPT question, and I audited the response briefly before we got on the call, so I'll leave it up for a second if you want to skim through it as the expert yourself and decide if the answer was good enough. That these sort of quick hit questions will just keep you in the flow of your work. If you keep GPT open as a tab pinned ready to go, and you have that moment of pause, like, ooh, I can't remember what this does, think of it the same way you think of as going to your search engine. Go to GPT, try it first. This is a part of the exercise of getting used to what GPT can and can't answer to. And in this case, it can answer to what does that checkbox do? And it gives you, in this case, a really long. And if you want a short answer, which is what we have trained AI Force Engine to do, is more of that short, quick hit, like just give me the answer. I don't want to read a novel. Then you can include that in your request up here, keep the answer short, and it will try to summarize in a much simpler fashion. Just another great use case, again, for Salesforce professionals. Let's talk about validation rules. Here we have, if we're solving for a business requirement where we're adding, let me pause for a second. I just want to apologize for anyone who's on the call who has been on other calls that I've done. Some of these will be repeat, and I'm sorry. Eventually, I'll get like a really good queue of just great examples, and I can alternate. So for some of you who this is repeat, I apologize. And for those of you who this is brand new, just wow, check this out. Okay, I'm adding a field called close loss reason on the opportunity object, and I want to create a validation rule where if the object, or if the record is set to close loss, then you've got to add the close loss reason. Pretty straightforward. Check out this request. I'm asking for that validation rule for Salesforce. I've included my API names, and this is a perfectly executable, even with the is picked val for your close loss reason or close loss stage name, and then the custom API for close loss reason is blank. This you can copy and paste right into your org. Now, if you're a little bit more, if you're newer to validation rules, this is going to be amazing to you. And if you're more experienced with validation rules, you might be thinking, yeah, I could type that up pretty quickly myself, right? And it's true. First of all, I would say, I do want you to go practice with GPT. Even if you can already get it yourself, taking a request to GPT and getting familiar with GPT and how it responds and how it gets it wrong and what you can do to get it right, make it get it right, that is super powerful. That's going to be super critical for your adoption of the GPT technology. Now, as you get into more complex validation rules, you'll start to see where GPT is going to help you. And so I just encourage you, if you look at this and say it's simple, don't brush it off. Go use GPT, go check it out. Take your hardest validation rules, the ones that would take you 30 minutes to write and get all your commas and colons and parentheses in the right place and the logic adjusted just right. And you will discover how important GPT is to solutioning, even for validation rules. Okay. I'm going to take a quick deep breath and just throw it back to you, Brad. If there's any quick questions that I could answer here before I jump into, I've got one, two. I'm going to say two more examples that I'll run through really quickly.
Okay, awesome. So you take a breath. I'm going to look at a couple of questions, and through the standard Brad style, all that'll give you a couple of minutes. So I'm going to try to get to some of the more recent questions. I've seen a lot. Will this be recorded? It's absolutely recorded. It's going to be on Salesforce for Everyone in 3 different places. It's going to be on LinkedIn. So that'll be my LinkedIn. It's going to be on YouTube, on the Salesforce for Everyone YouTube channel, and it's going to be on Facebook in the Salesforce for Everyone Facebook group. So we're live in all three places right now as we're streaming. And it will automatically save to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We'll grab a copy, probably edit it down so you hear less of my voice and more Mark's, and we'll get that updated and loaded up to YouTube because we know that's what you guys really want. So, all right, let's see. So I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. One I found pretty interesting. Do you think we're going to be able to personalize AI results based on the user, like the individual, based on their track record and what they've taught it and said to it about themselves or their org or how they like to be communicated with? Like, just, do you think we're going to be able to do that?
I think it will come. I think initially the base model and the way the language models work, there's a significant training that gets done on what I just call the big data. The big data, I could see a world where we get sort of that personalized language model structured as a precursor to going out and checking the big data. So you make a request, and behind the scenes, of course, will be magic by the time this takes place. But you make a request and it checks your, and I've seen examples that are somewhat similar, but not totally usable yet. It sort of checks your data, and then it goes to the big language model for big data, and then it comes back, and then it would sort of filter back through your own personal. I think that is going to be a game changer, another game changer. But there's still some time before we see that get utilized. Yeah, but yes, it's coming. You won't see that for quite some time, I don't think.
Yeah, I would agree. You know way more about the actual like technology that goes into it. I know I was speaking with you briefly before this, and you mentioned how Salesforce was so quick to the punch to say, "Hey, we're going to have Einstein GPT, and it's going to be awesome." And I know you've been following that really quickly. This is not in the comments, but I was going to ask you, what's your take? Because I'll just say, for me, Salesforce has a certain business model, and I love business models. Like, I live them and breathe them. Like, I consulted for 12 years. I love understanding how businesses think and work. And to me, Salesforce has a pretty clear business model when it comes to their functionality. And what they do is first they market whatever they have. So let's take Einstein GPT for the sake of this call. They market Einstein GPT and they say, it's going to be awesome. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. This is what you can look out for. And then they sell it, and all their account executives and sales reps. And this is news, like everybody like dial in for this. Sales reps, this is how the ecosystem works. The sales reps are going to be out there talking to the hundreds of thousands, 100,000 plus, 200,000 plus Salesforce customers globally about Einstein GPT. You need to buy licenses. What does the functionality do? Don't worry about that. You need to buy licenses. They're going to sell. So they're going to be out there telling all of the Salesforce customers how important GPT technology is and how important Einstein GPT is. What that means for you is that immediately all of the Salesforce customers are going to be getting emails once a month, once a week. They're going to have their sales reps calling them saying, "Hey, have you checked out Einstein GPT? Do you have anybody on your team that's familiar with GPT technology?" And right now, we're not seeing GPT too much in the job descriptions, but I can tell you this is how their business model works. They are starting to market GPT technology. They are then going to sell GPT technology, and Salesforce sales reps are good at what they do. It's why part of why Salesforce is so massively successful. And at that point, guess what they're going to do in their job descriptions? They're going to be looking for people to come interview and talk about the skills they have with GPT technology. That's what they're looking for. And there's not going to be much there. Salesforce isn't going to have a GPT cert this year. I highly doubt it. We're probably looking at, maybe sometime in 2024, they'll have something that comes out like the associate exam that's got a basic handful of questions and you can kind of go past it because they just need something in the ecosystem. So in that model, you can see where this fits in, where if you have GPT training and skills, you're going to look awesome on it when you fill out a resume or when you put your resume up or your LinkedIn up and they're going, "Man, I don't know. We don't have anybody on our team that does anything with GPT." And now Salesforce has this new product line. They say it's going to change the world. And then they go look on LinkedIn and who's going to be there? You. Like, you're going to be the one talking about GPT and that experience. And they're going to go, "Oh, who in the Salesforce ecosystem has Sales Cloud experience?" And they go, "Oh, those 100,000 people when I search." So you want to be the one who's different, not the one who's the same. And I'll say too, I've seen this before, right? Like I got CPQ certified when it was called Steelbrick. And about 2 years later, suddenly Salesforce was acquiring Steelbrick and it was a CPQ certification. And it's the hottest thing that the Salesforce market's ever seen because Salesforce sales reps are out there selling it hand over fist to all of their customers. And so they go with the market first, which they're doing now. Then they're going to sell it over the summer, can pretty much guarantee you they're going to be selling Einstein GPT before it even does anything. And then eventually, sometime probably late 2023, maybe 2024, more than likely, they're going to actually have a functional tool called Einstein GPT, and it probably won't be called Einstein GPT anymore. And that's just how the Salesforce ecosystem works. So, with all that being said, what are your thoughts, Mark, on, I guess, everything I just said? I mean, Einstein GPT, you know how this technology functions and sort of the process of building these things out. Are we going to see a fully functional Einstein GPT tool this year, if you had to guess?
Yeah, great question. First, I'll say, thinking about the time, I do want to go ahead and just announce and have it posted up here that
Right.
as I open up the training to more of a wide release here, for anyone who's stuck around on the call to learn about GPT and just um, really try to level up their skills, and that's what they're here for. I just want to share that code on the screen, and this code will be valid for you to use for a discount. So this is a promotion code for the discount if you do sign up for the training. So I just want to leave that on the screen for a minute here. I'm going to answer your question and then jump back to our last couple examples so that we can wrap on time for everybody.
Awesome.
Oh, and then so watch out for an email. So you're not going to be able to go anywhere with that code until you get the email, which probably within the hour you should see. So for those of you excited about that, it's
Yeah,
time finally.
I was going to say real quick, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
it's right there. But for those of you who are like right there, where like, okay, so aiforcetraining.com, that's the website you want to go to. On that homepage, there's a form. And if you fill out that form, because I've been through this and I've talked to a couple of people through this in the last week, aiforcetraining.com, go there, scroll to the bottom. You can check out the page. There's a lot of stuff there. But go to the bottom of the page, fill out that form. What that's going to do is you're going to get an email. And that email is what's going to provide you information about checking out if you want to actually enroll. So that's sort of how that, if you can't tell, I love business processes. That's how that business process works for lead generation and conversion. Yeah, be sure to check that out and then use that code. Like, do not forget to use that code at checkout, SF, the number 4, everyone. And I don't know what exactly the discount is, but I'm sure Mark did us a solid there. So we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I just appreciate anyone who is willing to come to the table and learn about GPT. I think it's so critical. I think it's so important. I think I checked back on this video, like I say, by the end of 2023, we will be very surprised by the wave of change. Einstein GPT, will it be here by the end of 2023? I'm guessing no. I'm guessing they may have an initial push like, hey, we got to get this out and roll out some limited certain features of it and then sell those licenses for those limited features and then continue the rollout through 2024. But I would say for full functionality for what they've described, hard pressed for 2023. But who knows? So sometimes we can pull some things off, use our magic and get the right talent on board. So we'll see what they have. We'll see. Yeah. So just jumping back in, we left off with validation rules. So I want to go through a formula example. So say you're building a custom formula in your org and you need GPT to write a formula for you. So writing formulas with natural language is just really fantastic. It's a really nice thing to do. You've got your business requirement. We even teach something called flow down requirements where you don't even read your business requirement. This is just fun, right? You don't read your business requirement outside of making sure that there's no proprietary information that you can't share in the model. You send that over to GPT and it's a fun way to brainstorm and see what the potential solutions may be. But if you get to the point where you realize you do need a formula field and you're going to guide GPT for that, this is just a prompt you can use. And we talk about why you say what you do here. I've already audited the response. It was a one-shot response. I didn't have to make any changes or any updates. Again, this is sort of more of, in my opinion, an easier task for GPT. There's certainly some harder formulas that you can do. But just for everyone on the call today, if I want to take the amount field on the opportunity and I want to find out or calculate a specific commission that should be assigned to that opportunity based on the amount field, I can provide this type of request to GPT, and out comes a perfectly syntaxed formula that I would just copy this, literally copy, take it to my formula field, drop it in, save, and then go straight to the org and check the results. And it's a great feeling to be able to execute on that. Last thing I'll do, and this was the newest module that got released for triggers. A part of the examples from those here, we're creating a trigger, and the trigger is, I mean, just look at the amount of text that we sent to GPT in order to get, I can tell you what is more than 80 to 90% of the accurate code that you will end up with for this final trigger. The amount of text that you send for the amount of text that you get, and it's within seconds. It's incredible. So this trigger just copies it looks up if a lead gets loaded and an account already exists for that exact company name that's on your lead. It's going to grab that account, look up, and drop it into the lead, so it's there. And it's just fantastic what you can do with GPT. It's never this easy when you're actually solutioning, and that's what we go through in the training. It's when you get the response, now you have to iterate over it and read it and decide if it's accurate enough or if you need to change the logic in some way. And then you can go through iterations with GPT to make that happen. This is a trigger just for fun, so you can see, since we talked about test classes, say I write a test class for this with 100% coverage. And you may think I'm just having fun with the 100% coverage, but I can tell you that is a thing. Hopefully I don't have to refresh here. Maybe I've had it open for a short enough period of time. Great. Where did it go? Okay, here we go. And so we'll end the call this way, or I'll at least stop the examples this way. I love getting some test class and copying that back to the org, because how boring is it to write your test classes to execute on the code that you just spent so long trying to make sure does what you expect it to do. Really nice to get a test class out of GPT and just lighten my workload for the day. Yeah. So I hope you guys are all excited about GPT as I am. It's such a big deal. If you like this content and you're looking for more, follow me on LinkedIn. We'll be certainly posting tips and tricks and just all kinds of content about AI and GPT as it evolves. And then on top of that, we've got, check us out on YouTube as well. We'll have some shorts and testimonials and just more content related to AI and GPT. I am stoked. I'm excited to share the message, and I'm super happy to have been here today and doing that with you.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Mark, for coming on and spending time with us. I personally appreciate you. I know you hung out with the Talent Stacker crew specifically a couple of weeks ago. Now you're hanging out on Salesforce for Everyone and spending time with the entire community here. So we certainly appreciate it. This is a big topic. There are not a lot of, actually, I would say from my experience, I have not found any experts in the Salesforce ecosystem on this topic. And that's, sort of why I'm spending a lot of time leaning in and introducing you to the community, because this is a big deal. To your point, this is not going away. It's going to stick with us. It's like saying Google's going to go away, or 15 years ago saying Google might just be a fad. And it's like, be a fad. Like, do you understand the way the technology works? This is not a fad. This is excessively useful. So there's no way. I mean, people are going to be leaning into it left and right. If you have any questions, I've got a couple saved. Are you cool with hanging out for a second, answering a couple of questions, Mark?
Sure. I love it. Anybody that wants to chill and chat GPT, hey, we can do it.
Yeah, it's kind of that's me with like Salesforce jobs. It's like, you want to talk Salesforce jobs? Like, and I'm stuck for like 3 hours just talking because I can't shut up. All right. So you guys feel free to ask questions as they come in. Huge thank you to Mark. I see all you guys in here. Thank you for coming. Like, this live event is a waste of everybody's time if no one's here, right? And you guys were so engaged and so many questions. And I cannot tell you enough how humbled I am personally by the Salesforce for Everyone community. you guys bring so much energy and so much excitement and just interest in these topics that when we do live events like this, it's so different. Like I'm not going to name any names, but I've done live events with other groups and there's no energy. And everybody's just asking, the simplest questions are just like putting their LinkedIn links, and that's all you see in the messages, right? Just people trying to network. And you guys bring an entirely different vibe. This is enjoyable to present to. So I just wanted to thank the community for what you bring to the table.
Yeah,
All right.
and I'll echo that. I think it's so important. And I think for GPT specifically and sort of accelerating the adoption of that, it's going to take community. I mean, we have to share with each other our experience with it and what we know that exists because it's new. And people are getting a lot of misinformation about what GPT is and how important it is. And we've got to set the record straight. That's my job.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'll reiterate what I said before. It's my responsibility to communicate with the Salesforce ecosystem when things matter to them and when things are important to them. And I would expect, thinking about like the role of someone like a Salesforce MVP, like to me that is someone who, and I'm not one, but that's okay. I will take the responsibility of what I would think should be happening. And if I'm an MVP of the community, it is my responsibility to inform the community when things are meaningful to them and not send them clickbait links and videos and try to get as much ad marketing as I can. That's not the point. And I think as influencers or community leaders, we forget what we're supposed to be doing, and we're supposed to be leading a community, not getting ad revenue from a community. And so it's so, to me, it's just absolutely so important to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward for everyone and listening to everyone, not just saying whatever we want to say that we think will get the most views. Because I could just go out and make 20 videos about GPT and how everyone would be titled, so GPT's taking your job, with a big like worried face. And then I'll do a 30-second video about how it's not, and I'll just get all the clicks. But I have no interest in that. So anyway, all right. So let's hop in here. So we covered that. It will be recorded. We covered where can we sign up for the course. So that is covered. aiforcetraining.com. Fill out the form. You'll get an email. The email will hit you up. If you don't get an email, make sure you go berate Mark on LinkedIn and
let me know. Yeah, I've had some comments about emails not coming through, and I try to grab those as quick as I can and just get you the email. I'm not sure. Sometimes the cloud doesn't work the way the cloud's supposed to work, kind of like GPT. So yeah, well, just let me know. Please hit me up by email or LinkedIn. Anywhere is just fine.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We've got a question here. As a newcomer to the Salesforce ecosystem, would you recommend supplementing studying for the administrator certification with Einstein content? Is Einstein something that we'll be working with the most Salesforce jobs right out of the gate? So yeah, I'd love to hear your advice. My personal advice is, if you're new to the ecosystem and you're not Salesforce administrator certified yet, that's sort of your gateway right now to breaking in. I would first focus, don't get shiny object syndrome, focus on Salesforce administrator certification while also spending time on LinkedIn networking. That's going to be sort of how you're going to, get your voice heard, become a meaningful member of the community. And then that administrator certification is going to show that you're truly interested in breaking into this career path and you're putting in the work. So yeah, Mark, if you don't mind speaking to, for an entry-level person, GPT training.
Yeah, for entry-level person. Just saw a question in the chat. Is there a coupon code for the I4 certification? Coupon code is actually on the screen right next to the website. So SF for everyone. Use that. Entry level. Yeah. Get the first certification and think about GPT in this way. GPT is like a 2, 3, 4, 5xer on any certs you do have. So you don't want to show up and say, hey, I know how to use GPT. I can go learn everything there. Show up with your cert and then later tack on an actual GPT, which is going to like 2, 3, 4x your cert. Your cert becomes that much more valuable. And this is why I'm starting to talk to people about how to think about GPT in this way. Someone with a cert with no GPT experience versus someone with a cert with GPT experience. I think eventually we're going to be training, employers are going to know why, how valuable GPT is. And then when they see that GPT cert beside your Salesforce certs, I think that's going to be the golden ticket at the end of the day. So yes, head down first. Again, you're the expert. You have to use GPT as the assistant. So Salesforce first, GPT second.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that and just say that I know there's been a lot of focus once again on, we were talking earlier about the focus on the engine, the Salesforce GPT engine by AI Force versus Chat GPT. And I was sort of saying like, hey, the training to me is the most instrumental part. And I know a lot of people have been on LinkedIn because the pre-launch that you did with Talent Stacker, they've seen the GPT specialist certification coming out, right? And so that's a certification through AI Force. And a lot of people are focused on the certification. And the reason for that is because we live in a Salesforce ecosystem where we are certification hungry. That's all we see. We see associate certification, admin, CPQ, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. They're like 30, 40 different Salesforce certifications at this point. And we begin to forget that certifications are meant to showcase our knowledge on a particular topic. And at least in my opinion, you can do whatever you want. If you want to go certification hoard, you can do that. Totally up to you. But to me, a certification means that I am well versed on that topic enough that I would want to tell an employer, look, I got my Sales Cloud certification because I really understand the elements of Sales Cloud and how it's used in businesses. Well, I'll say what makes the GPT specialist certification different to me. And I shouldn't say that. It's not the cert, it's the embodiment. Like when you go take the Salesforce administrator certification exam, you're literally trying to get a 65 on a multiple choice test and pass for the sake of passing that exam. And I hope that some part of you wants to actually know the content that's in the exam and actually understand Salesforce as a platform, right? And the thing about this GPT specialist certification is you can't take the exam until you've completed the AI Force training. And the exam gets harder over time because Mark and the AI Force team are adding content over time. And each time a new module is added, like triggers got added, I think it was this past week, that gets added to the exam. And so it does get more difficult over time as content is added. There's just a bigger question bank. Now, I think what I want to point out here is that when you have a GPT specialist certification, that means that not only did you pass a test, but it means that you are required to go through fundamental training on how to actually utilize not just the AI Force engine and Chat GPT, but any type of GPT and understanding the technology behind it and how to utilize it well and how to actually use it so that you're not just ready for Chat GPT in April 2023, you're ready for GPT technology in April 2024 because you truly understand how it functions and why it works and how you can utilize it to be a better Salesforce professional. So when Mark says, hey, you've got the admin certification and your GPT specialist certification, it puts a multiplier effect on your existing certification because it says not only am I cognizant as a Salesforce administrator, I have the ability to put a multiplier effect on top of my administrator skills because I can utilize GPT technology as an assistant with the skills that I already have. And it's a massive differentiator.
It is. It is. It's the cleanest way I could think of assigning the value to GPT. I think that's a great way to do it. And and then I'll say that I almost didn't include a cert. Honestly, the training was moving along and being structured, and no certification was going to be involved at all. I wanted to sort of go against the trend and the cert hungry machine that Salesforce has created in the ecosystem. But
Yeah.
then there was there was a challenge, and it was, well, how do you define, how do you identify somebody who is skilled in GPT? And at the end of the day, that's what employers need. They need to know who is skilled and who is not. That's how you are going to add your value. And so, as much as I didn't want to do it, and I wish there was an alternative, the cert is how we assign the value.
Yeah. I've had so many people say, why do I need training on GPT? Like I can just go log in and start using it. Like you don't need training. And I think that's like going to, I don't know what your grandparents are like, but I know what my grandparents are like, and the technology is not their number one priority in life. And if I went up to my grandma and I was like, hey, grandma, here's google.com. I want you to tell me how to do this. She can't do it. She wouldn't even know what to do. And so I think that's the difference, is that we all have tools and we all have technology. And the difference between someone who's trained to actually utilize a technology versus someone who knows how to poke around at it and they think logically they're making it do what it's supposed to do, two very different things. And I had heard, something that I tell people is, look, like, you realize how worthless Salesforce is if you don't have a professional who actually knows how to use it. Now, they might be able to do some cute stuff. They could create some fields with pick list values and they'd use a multi-select and it looks so cool. And then you'd find out later that it's absolute garbage for reporting. Or they might even be able to, create some flows that did some stuff, but it turns out it's not best practice and it's going to hit some errors in the future. Or day 30, they're going to add a validation rule that somehow just breaks everything for the sales team and not know how to fix it. And you can do some cool stuff with GPT without having any training, 100%. But you don't actually know what you're doing yet. That's sort of the thing. And if you do, that's cool. Some people can go past the Salesforce administrator certification after they read through Trailhead and they just go past it. And some people have to retake it 5 times, and that's totally fine. But the difference between those two things is that for some people, they're going to get it. It's going to click for them in GPT. They may not need training. But for other people, that's not true. And I think, hedging your bets against falling behind in this type of technology or just assuming you know what you're doing is sort of scary to me. It's like letting an admin into the system who doesn't have a proven track record of being able to admin Salesforce. You just go, oh, they said they could use it and they're pretty good at it and they passed a test, so I guess they're good. Just let them in, let it rip. Yeah, go ahead and I'll ask a couple more questions.
Yeah. Again, so much is packed in there. Yeah, I think GPT, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier about the level of skill set. So GPT, strangely, it's really hard to wrap your brain around, but it responds to your level of skill set in a way. It uses the information you input into the request to generate the response. What you have in the request is actually what determines the response. So your skill set as a professional is the key to using GPT. So your skill set as a professional combined with your training and ability to understand how the GPT responds to certain requests or how you structure your requests, those two things combined, that's the value. That's how you level up. That's how you get that multiplier on any of your on the certifications that you have. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
All right. So I'm going to ask you one more question before we hop off. Before somebody said passed on my 5th attempt. It's painful. I hate that you have to take certification exams in this industry. I get it. It's like this necessary evil, but
right.
It's really frustrating when I see people who are like absolute next level talent and the certification is what's giving them trouble. It's really frustrating to watch. All right. So last question. I know your opinion on this. I'm going to ask anyway, because I think we should just spell it out. I know you talked about it earlier, but your take, GPT technology taking over Salesforce professional jobs, whether that's administrator, developer, analyst, consultants, whatever else. Is GPT technology poised to actually replace Salesforce talent?
The answer is no. In the short term. No. The answer is no. You have to learn the tool, though. You have to learn the tool because 5 years from now will look totally different from today. Everybody, and I mean almost everybody, will be using GPT in some capacity within their work scope. And it won't look like it does today. You won't go to Chat GPT or maybe not even AI Force. It depends on how everything shakes out, but it will be integrated into your workflow and your work scope. And it's not a job killer today, but your job will look totally different tomorrow, meaning years from now. And there's a lot that has to happen between now and then. You want to stay on the front end of this curve, learn GPT, learn how to talk to it, understand it, watch the tools develop, utilize the tools as they come. Because anybody who's not utilizing the internet today for their, say, their business or their, whatever jobs that they're doing is basically not working. I mean, what are the chances that someone is, okay, and we're talking to tech professionals here, right? So this makes sense in our ecosystem. You can't do your job without the internet in Salesforce. Like, it's just not possible. And that would be the same with GPT. It is coming, but you don't have to be afraid in the short term. In the short term, you got to stay on the front edge of the skill set, and get that experience. And in the long run, though, it's going to be a very interesting future. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for that response. Thank you for coming and educating not only me, but everyone else. I really appreciate everything you've done for our community up to this point. You've been a pleasure to work with and align with. Thank you once again to everyone who joined. We are actually going to wrap, so you guys can move on with your day. I think you can reach Mark. I put it in the comments. Admin, it's on the website, admin@aiforcetraining.com is where you can reach out directly if you have any issues getting basically the form filled out, or any issues on the website finding information. Anyway, we will catch you guys on a future live. We'll see you out in the community every single day. And thank you all for coming, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everyone.